Hello, this is a very brisk reminder that, let me put you back there, that your brain is not broken. It's just been wired incorrectly, okay? Think of it more like you don't have a hardware problem, you have a software problem, okay? And a really good way to fix software problems is to read. I know this sounds very, very boring and perhaps a bit antiquated. However, the wonderful thing about reading is that it allows you to imagine things that aren't in reality yet. If you're stuck in a position in life where you want to change something that's happening to you, or perhaps you're doing something, a behavior that you're not happy with, or maybe people at work are not treating you well, so people at university are not making you feel at home or give you a sense of belonging. Whatever it is that's going wrong, in order for you to change, you need to be able to imagine a reality that hasn't happened yet. You need to imagine a world where you do belong. Imagine a world where there isn't severe conflict in the workplace. What would that look like? Why would you be happy in it? What would you be like? Would there be attributes of your personality that have changed because now you're happy or at peace, or you're able to navigate the landscape with greater ease and greater agility? All these things, all these aspects of your life that you want to change, they are all incredibly predicated based on your ability to imagine something that hasn't happened yet. The wonderful thing about fiction is that it makes you imagine something in the moment that isn't real. If I pick up this book, which has 3 short stories from Dostoevsky, I have to all of a sudden imagine St. Petersburg. I'm not in my current location in 2026. I'm somewhere in the 19th century in Russia. The people around me are different. The entire social milieu is different. And that's the magic of stories. And the better that you get at reading stories, the better you can get at telling your own story differently, not just to others, but to yourself. And you'll probably, if you're Googling this sort of a topic, you're probably thinking, oh yes, I need to change my identity in order to change how I function in the world and how people see me and the opportunities that come to me. Yes, of course, that's all correct. People treat us the way we treat ourselves, the way we present in the world. And I'm not saying, with makeup or specific clothes, but the way we present in the world is usually what is reflected back to us. The brilliant thing about books is that it introduces you to characters and to people that perhaps allegorically. Maybe you have actually met Macbeth from Shakespeare, or you have met Romeo, the overly aggressive kind of, 20-year-old dude who thinks not with his head. Maybe you've met these people, but maybe there are people in these stories you haven't met. And maybe you like them. Maybe there's an attribute of them you think is really cool. Like, say, Portia in Merchant of Venice. She's a judge. It's pretty cool. She's a woman of authority, of agency. Awesome. Maybe I want to be a bit like Portia. Maybe not all her attributes, but perhaps some. Maybe I read another text, say a Jane Austen text, and, okay, Mr. Bingley's kind of a bit of a wimp, right? He just does what everybody else tells him to do. Ew, yuck. But you might be thinking, oh my God, I dated that guy last week. I went on a date with the guy that was just like Mr. Bingley, and now I'm reading about him. I don't want to be with that. Awesome. You've saved yourself a world of trouble because you've imagined something that isn't there. And in doing that, you've paradoxically imagined something and reflected on something that is present in your life, but through a mirror. So instead of dating Mr. Bingley, you go, hang on a second, actually Mr. Darcy's a bit of a vibe, right? Perfect. That's the art of a good storyteller, is that they'll give you a mirror and you have to imagine a world that's different to your own, but then at the same time, it's actually exactly the world that you're in, or maybe a world you don't want to be in, and a world you want to avoid. You'll see a lot of the tragedies that are written, Sophocles, pick your tragedian, whether it's Greco-Roman or whether it is Elizabethan or whether they are in the Reformation period, it doesn't matter. Pick your writer. And what they're doing is they're presenting different realities to you. And you have to choose critically which ones you're doing and you don't want to do. Maybe attributes you should learn and attributes you don't want to learn. Because at the end of the day, as Shakespeare says, all the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. We are characters in a book. If you conceptualize life like that, you're just a character in a book. Make yourself the hero, please. If you're not the hero, you need to start rewriting. If you make yourself a character and then you think of all these other characters you've read, you start to reflect and go, oh, hang on a second, I'm being a bit envious of this person. What happened to the envious person in Othello? Death, mortality, not good, lots of terrible events. Then all of a sudden we can say to ourselves, okay, when I'm envious, I'm going to not act like Iago. I'm going to do something incredibly different. I'm going to do mercy. I'm going to be merciful. I'm going to be appreciative of somebody else's success, and I'm going to celebrate that. And in that act of envy and jealousy, I'm actually going to realize what I want. And then maybe stay in my own lane and not try and sabotage someone else's. The other thing that books can do is, well, Machiavelli, as I said. The prince, he warns us. If you've met someone in the workplace like the prince and Machiavelli, someone that's two-faced, someone that is ready to deceive for the sake of power and authority, of which I'm sure we've all met somebody at work like that, we can navigate around them. Machiavelli actually gives really good tips as to how to get around these people. Irrespective of whether he advocates for it is another thing, but he certainly helps us understand what is good and what is bad to do around figures of control, people that are just possessed by a desire to have complete possessive domination over the world. And it's these things that we have to remember when we're trying to create a new world for ourselves. If we want to change ourselves, if we want to change our identity, we need to become a new character. And if you've read a lot of books, not only do you know what character you want to be or what characters you want to be like, but you also know how to write those characters. You know maybe some conventions that you can write in your journal. Maybe you're going to use a metaphor. Maybe you're going to use a simile, because Shakespeare uses a ton of them. Dostoevsky, lots of beautiful setting description, character description. You would have learnt the language that comes with becoming a new person, with reframing who you are. So if you're on one of those journeys in life, or those moments in life where you want to change who you are and you want to change your circumstances, you want to change the events that are happening to you, we need to find a book for you that will help navigate through that difficulty. And it might be a book that's tragedy, because that way you can know exactly what not to do. It might be a comedy text and it's showing you exactly the guidelines. This is how you survive this circumstance. I picked this book because there's a story in it. Well, there's three actually, in Dostoevsky's three great works. It's White Nights, which is a romance story, brilliant, everyone should read that one. Notes from the Underground, and The Dream of a Ridiculous Man. And I have frothed that last short story so much throughout my entire life. Well, not entire, I think I read it when I was about 19, and I fell in love with that text. I keep going back to this section of this short story that I'm about to read to you, because it taught me exactly why I shouldn't be nihilistic. And this is the key point here. When you pick a short story or a novel or a poem to read, it's going to teach you how to be a new person or aspects of how to change your life. You want to pick a protagonist that has the same problem as you. So you could even just Google protagonists, heroes, heroines in stories that have X problem, that are jealous, that are power hungry. You kind of have to be honest with yourself here. What is the fatal flaw that you have that is causing all these problems in your life, right? And okay, you might say, oh, but everyone's bullying me, it's not my problem. Okay, fair, that's awful. People are bullying you, they shouldn't be doing that. But what can we do so that you don't have to be bullied anymore? Okay, well, let's look at characters who are bullied a lot. Let's take Timon of Athens, which is a Shakespeare play. He's far too charitable and far too kind and has absolutely no boundaries. And that's how people exploit him. So if we read Timon of Athens, you might think to yourself, oh, hang on a second. Yes, I am too forgiving, or I am too generous with aspects of myself, or I have zero boundaries, right? In that way, you can be honest with yourself with what is good and what is bad, and what do we need to change about ourselves so that we can change our life. The dream of the ridiculous man very much reflected who Charlotte was a few years ago, which was an incredibly nihilistic woman. I admit, I confess, moments of vulnerability. I was incredibly nihilistic. I didn't think that acts or behaviors or thoughts or feelings had any inherent purpose, because I had spiraled down the nihilistic pathway that a lot of people do, and the ridiculous man does in this text. And there's a lovely section, so I'm going to do a bit of a plot spoiler here. I'm going to read the last section of this text. Now, a lot happens in this short story, so I'll just very basically summarize. The ridiculous man, the man named in the title, has completely lost hope. He doesn't think anything is worth doing anymore. He has completely given up on any concept of what it could mean to have a purposeful and happy life. He then has an encounter with a family almost, but essentially a young girl, and he helps her. And it was in that act of helping somebody else that he has this ontological shock, this psychological shock, that changes his perception on life. He goes, oh, hang on a second, I've just expressed charity, and this sense of platonic love, this sense of generosity has almost healed my hatred towards humanity. And it's that moment that the writer equates nihilism with a hatred of humanity, which is an incredibly profound point, that usually when we find ourselves in states of despair, extreme despair, even if it's justified, there is this hatred, this anxiety, this detestation of humanity itself, of the world, the way the world works. And even though it might be justified, as I said, it's not a healthy place to be living in. So the conclusion that the ridiculous man comes to is this: the chief thing is to love others like yourself. That's the chief thing, and that's everything. Nothing else is wanted. You will find out at once how to arrange it all. And yet it's an old truth which has been told and retold 1 billion times, but it has not formed part of our lives. The consciousness of life is higher than life. The knowledge of the laws of happiness is higher than happiness. That is what one must contend against. And I shall, if only everyone wants it. It can be arranged at once. And I think that's an excellent point, that you can arrange your life in any way that you like, as soon as you start coming from a place of love, whether, and I don't mean that in a romantic sense, I mean that in a sense of platonic love. Love to yourself. How can you love yourself best in positions of work where you're being bullied by colleagues? What would best serve that love towards yourself? And also, what serves you best in that situation will serve them well too, because they're not taking care of you properly. So what serves you will most likely end up serving the betterment of everybody. Because if you stop getting bullied, then they stop bullying, and that serves them as well. When you're trying to arrange your identity, arrange who you are, rewrite the story of who you are and who you're going to be, the more books you read with characters that you either relate to or characters you don't want to be like, the easier it will be for you to get that journal out and start journaling away and writing away and thinking, conceptualizing what you're going to do, who you're going to go and be, and why. And that's such an important thing. I think that's a very popular niche on well, I was going to say on YouTube, but the world, you can be whoever you want, and you can manifest anything that you want. But we need to have the language and the skills and the ideas to be able to do that. For me, the ridiculous man was the answer. But for you, it might be a different book. So here's my research proposal for you. Get on the internet and Google books, stories, characters that demonstrate. Then you're going to insert whatever it is that is holding you back. Face that person, that darkness, that shadow. Face it and go, okay, it's you are the thing. That's the beautiful thing about stories, is they actually personify vices, they personify problems, and then help you navigate that darkness. Like Peter Pan. Don't be like Peter Pan. Don't run away from your shadow. Face it and go, okay, hang on a second. I'm going to destroy this shadow. Absolutely annihilate this part of my personality that's holding me back, or this part of my life that is holding me back. I'm going to change it because the ridiculous man changed it, or because Othello didn't change it, or because Romeo certainly didn't change his ways. Happy Googling and good luck.